Howdy, boys and girls. Welcome to Kilts and Culture. I am your host, Rocky. This is Mac.
Ta-da!
Eric is off on a fishing trip today with his son and the Boy Scouts. So
Catching little fish.
Exactly. So we have Mac as co-chair, and back behind as the MC, we have Mr. Ian joining us today. Howdy, howdy. Indeed. All right. So today, special treat. I can't get my foot in there. Oh, I'm so bad at this now.
Whoa.
I'm hitting the tape on the floor. Oh, no, heavens, it's all going to shit. All right. Today, we try Foggy Mountain Salted Caramel.
You heard that right.
Gift from David Calvin, viewer and friend of the show. I did not know that they made flavored whiskey. Well, I guess I did know. Jason brought in the peanut butter flavored whiskey one time. I don't know how I feel about flavored whiskey.
And there's cinnamon whiskey.
Yeah, I like whiskey flavored whiskey. But we're gonna give it a go.
Okay, Nick Offerman.
Is that something he said? Oh, Jesus.
If it's not something he said, it sounds like something he would say.
Immediately smell it. Immediately open it up, and it's hitting my nose hairs. There is a bit out of the top because we did this for a Jace's Faces episode thing, whatever. It's an episode? Sure, it's an episode.
Mm-hmm.
Recently. So this is salted caramel. Ian, do you have the tasting notes for our salted caramel flavor whiskey here?
I do. We've got tasting notes. On the nose, you'll find salted caramel. On the front end, as you first take a sip, it's salted caramel. When it reaches the back of your mouth and your throat, it's going to turn into salted caramel. And when you spit it back into the glass, it's going to be salted caramel.
Fair. All right. And just for that negativity, I'm giving Ian a little bit more. We got to get the Ian reaction. All right, come on over and collect your glass, Mr. Mac. And while you are,
Oh wow, no! Now that it's come over here.
oh yeah,
wow,
yeah, dude, it's
like Werther's.
yes. All right, so while Ian is back there, why don't you tell us what tartan you are wearing, Mr. Ian?
I'm wearing the Manx Hunting Ancient tartan.
Yes, and other side note, Ian's straps and buckles on that tartan are a dark brown. We're getting closer, boys and girls. We're getting closer to brown and dark tan straps and buckles. Do you have the regular chrome buckles, or do you have the antiqued? Chrome? Okay, very nice. Mac, what tartan do you have on there today?
Well, if it's not up, it's down. County down.
Oh, look at you with the dad jokes. And I got whiskey on my kilt already. Today I have on the Buchanan Weathered Tartan. It is my favorite version of the Buchanan Tartan. Very nice, very nice. Okay, now that we have that out of the way. Jesus, you don't need to put your nose in this to smell it. You can smell, seriously, you can smell it from across the room.
It is straight up Werther's.
Yes. It does. I couldn't figure it out. No. It's not Werther's. It is like the cheaper butterscotch version.
Okay, yep.
Of candy, not the Werther's. Oh, jeez. That is a lot of salted caramel. I remember that when we opened it up for the for Jace's Faces, when we were gonna pour it out, Adam, one of our videographers, said, I bet it doesn't even taste like salted caramel. You probably get barely a hint of it. And I opened it and I was just like, oh my God, nope, you're dead wrong. Nope, that's absolutely salted caramel. So in fairness, what this company does is a lot of flavored whiskeys and flavored vodkas and stuff like that for mixing. So in that aspect, this is absolutely what you would use this for. I don't know if I would just straight drink this outside of, scientific reasons here. All right.
So where are the mixers then?
You're in your belly.
They're not wrong.
Yep,
It's what it is.
That's salted caramel. How are you feeling about it, Mac?
I want this in ice cream. I want a milkshake in this.
Ooh.
You want to take your clothes off and jump in and swim in it?
I don't know about all that. It's like I even get like a sugary consistency on the tongue, and like it's layering my mouth. Layering
Let
my
that
mouth.
go.
Yes. Ian, what are your? I'm sure you have no thoughts on this.
None.
So none at all.
Why does this exist? Is I guess my first question. I understand flavored alcohols, your vodkas and your whatnots, for mixing. I get that, but why whiskey? Why do this to a beautifully aged oak barrel drink?
Do you know that it's aged?
Put it in. I don't. But if it's a white whiskey, that's fine. Like if you're putting it in your moonshine, sure, knock yourself out.
This
But
may be a white whiskey that just has caramel added into it.
That's fair. That's fair. But if you're going to add it to real whiskey, you're covering up everything that's wonderful about whiskey to me. You're right. This is perfectly fine. Put it in, maybe this would be good in a cider as like a caramel covered apple teeny drink, whatever.
see that.
Okay.
I don't go for stuff like that. I very much have a sweet tooth. I can't resist a dessert. If you're having me over and giving me a nice scotch and also hey, I got these salted caramel cookies. Would you like one? Hell yes. I don't like it with my whiskey. And I generally don't drink sweet alcoholic drinks. I can. They're not bad. They're just not for me. So,
Yeah.
yeah, no thank you.
Yeah. I think you're on there. It is. I could absolutely see this being mixed with something. But it's literally like taking a shot of sugar and caramel drink, just more liquidy.
And the problem is,
I know. I don't know how I feel about it. I'm very torn. Mac. What? Really? Okay.
my glass is empty. So,
Okay. It definitely has legs.
but I see. I like the peanut butter whiskey. I like the flavor of that one, the screwball.
Yeah.
I know that's not a very popular one in the room, but I enjoy that. This is right down that same line.
It
An
is.
abomination. Abomination in both cases.
I could see that.
The only
it.
flavored whiskey that I drink sometimes, and I had to come around to it, I was very against it for a long time, is I do use like a honey whiskey sometimes in tea, like especially as like a bootleg
Hot toddy.
hot toddy, a bootleg
I
hot
do the
toddy.
same thing. Yep.
It's not a proper hot toddy, I get it, but sometimes when you're sick, you want you want
Yeah.
to get there fast.
Yeah, I'll do that, and then I also add honey into it too. Just to,
Yes,
I double down
obviously. I said sweet tooth earlier.
Yeah. This is hurting my sweet tooth.
Alfalfa raw honey, by the way, is the move.
on it. Yes.
This is like rotting my teeth out of my head sweet.
Yeah,
All right. Well,
yeah.
so we will score this. We have to keep the scores consistent. So first, let's score it how we would actually score it on the show as its own scotch, as its own whiskey.
Standalone.
All right, Ian, 1 to 10.
One
score
is the
this.
lowest.
1 is the lowest.
Can't go below one. That
Can't
means.
go below 1.
So zero's off the table.
You can do it like a 0.1.
Okay. I'm torn because it's not like it tastes bad. If I said it tasted bad, I'd be a liar. But I don't want it to exist. So I will give it a half point for it not tasting bad and say 1.5.
1.5. Okay.
If it didn't taste like salted caramel and it was this abomination, then it would be a true 1. But I'll give it a 1.5 to be polite.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Mac.
If I'm going for a whiskey, this is not the first thing I'm picking up. If I'm going for something that I'm going to, as you said, mix with something or a dessert type thing.
Don't do the mixing yet.
I know, but
This
I'm
is-
just saying. Like I have to separate the two.
Yep.
Like if I'm going for an actual whiskey, this is going to be scored lower. If I'm just going for a whiskey.
It doesn't have to be a whiskey. It's a drink, and it could be You could be like, because we've done other things that aren't whiskeys before.
Sure.
We've done beer, we've done other stuff. So if I'm going for, I'm in a sweet toothy kind of mood. Is this something you would go for? And in that vein, what would you score it? And then next, we'll score it based on if it was in a mixed drink kind of thing.
See, if I'm going sweet tooth, like I said, I enjoy Screwball. I enjoy the peanut butter whiskey, and I will go down and grab that off the shelf.
Okay.
So I am still going to go. I'm going to go way higher than you two are on this by far. I'm going 8-2.
Wow.
That sweet
Okay.
tooth comes in hard.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
what she said.
Thank you, Michael Scott. Okay. I'm not going anywhere near that hard. Or anywhere near that high. But it's not bad. I'll say 5 being something I would order on a regular basis or be like average kind of thing. I'll say 4-4. Give it a 4-4. So I wouldn't go out of my way to order it, but if it was at a party, I'm like, yeah, sure. They didn't have any desserts, but that was the dessert liqueur, so to speak. Sure. All right, now, Ian, if you're gonna mix a drink,
Okay.
would you use this and with an apple with your cider concoction that you said, or an apple teeny and add a salted apple, salted caramel apples teeny thing?
I mean, I'd try it if somebody else were making it, but I wouldn't make it.
Okay.
Like, I think, some of the scoring uses, would you literally turn this down if handed to you? And if I'm at a party and somebody wants to hand this to me and I'm thinking, you know what, I'm going to have to drive home tonight, probably only having a drink or two, I don't know, I'd want to waste that drink or two on this.
Okay.
No, thank you.
Well, if it's like if it's there's some kind of
Yeah.
fruit punch mixture-y thing that it happened to go with.
I would try it out of mere curiosity.
Okay.
So a comparable here is, and this was a massive mistake, the part I'm getting to, not the first part of this sentence. I joined the rabble-rousers when they visited Bethlehem about a month ago.
Group of kilted individuals, for those who didn't know.
And met up at the Red Stag in Bethlehem and had lunch. And they had on the menu, it was Easter weekend, so they had a Cadbury cream egg martini thing. And I'm like, you know what? I'm curious, morbidly curious. I will try this. Man, was that awful. Didn't taste anything like a Cadbury cream egg, to be fair. It's like, this just tastes like sweet and maybe a little bit of alcohol, and it's awful, and I don't like it.
Okay, score it based on a mixer.
I don't drink stuff like that, usually. Out of 10 still?
No, out of 7.3 now, Ian.
Yes,
out of
you were
10.
talking about out of 5 earlier.
Just-
I don't know. You're switching it up on me. I don't know, 3 or 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
3 or 4. That's his official exact score.
Yeah.
Mac.
This is going in milkshakes. This is going in waffle batter mix. We're going all in.
Waffle batter mix.
Okay, now we're
Yeah.
talking. I'm back up to 5 now.
Now we can make a syrup out of this and pour it. Like, we can go all kinds of different directions with this. I'm still at my 8-2 for both levels.
Okay. I could absolutely see this being mixed for a mix of a thing. Not that I'm a cocktaily kind of guy, but as a mix of a thing, I'd probably say it's like 7-2. I could see it getting up there for a mix of a thing. Okay. Very good. All right. Boys and girls, if you would, load in your questions. As always, we are your humble servants here to answer whatever questions you have for us. So load them in below. And before we get started, 2 things. One,
Ooh.
I knew Ian was going to hate it, so I brought it back up.
We have a comment that's interesting.
Oh, what's the comment that's interesting?
Mixed with coffee?
See, okay.
I'm okay. People are starting to come up with ideas that are interesting. Like, you talking about the waffle batter? I'm like, okay, let's talk.
Yeah.
With coffee, I'd try it.
Now, see, I don't like hot alcohol. I don't drink Irish coffee and stuff like that. So for me, I wouldn't do it in that. Maybe, hold on. In a cold coffee, and like an iced coffee,
Okay.
pour in, yes, Yes, because I like caramel. I like the salted caramel, like mocha chocolate latte
Yeah.
cups from what's it called, Starbucks. So a salted caramel, like a good little bit in there, that would be dangerous.
Yeah.
You would be like wide awake and sloshed. Okay. Yes. So anyway, since I knew that Ian wasn't going to like this, we have drank this on the show before. Drank. Brian
Drunk.
Greminger came into the store the other day, and he brought a bottle of this for us. And since we have already drank this on the show, we're not going to review it. But I did say, you know what, this would be great as a backup because I know Ian's going to hate it, and I just want to have a second drink. So, Ian,
Sorry, my glass is full.
oh well, then you got to kill it.
Aw.
That's why I gave Ian the more. I was like, if he wants the down more, which is spectacular, by the way. I think
Doing
we
this to
rated this
punish me.
up in the upper 7s or 8s.
We
Absolutely.
don't care about this
So-
carpet, do we?
So yes. All right. 2 bits of housekeeping before we start the show. Number 1, we've teased it for years. We've been lazy about it for just as long. We've designed the Nordic Heritage tartan. Stick around. We are going to unveil it towards the end of the show. So, if you want to see what Eric and I came up with, as well as groupthink, but Eric and I actually sat down and did a design, stick around for the end of the show, or towards the end of the show, excuse me, and we are going to unveil the official Nordic Heritage tartan. House cleaning number 2. Our store's 20th anniversary is coming up. We've actually been here for 20 years. Who would have thunk that, people would care about this for 20 full years? So anyway, we are officially 20 years old. We are having a 20th anniversary party here at the shop. Saturday, June 10th is the official date. So we're going to have a party here in the store Saturday, June 10th from I think it's going to be probably 3 or 4 p.m. to about 8 p.m. There will be, alcohol. There'll be, regular drinks as well. It's going to be food. We're going to have some discounts for in-store kind of things. So we may even have a little a quizzo type show or game. I don't know. We're toying around with different stuff to do on the day. But mark your calendars. If you are anywhere within a reasonable radius, be sure to make it here on June 10th. Yes, absolutely.
Dunk tank with salted caramel whiskey that Ian's got to be in it.
Incorrect. Mac is the mixed drink that goes along with that tank.
I'm going to stop. I'm picturing Mac in a tartan Speedo in a dog tank full of Foggy Mountain.
Have you guys been watching my dreams?
Maybe. Okay. All right. Boys and girls, please load in your questions. Done with the announcements. Mr. Mac, give me question number uno that is already pre-asked.
All right, so we have Jason Duggan asking, I got an off-the-rack USA kilt casual a while back. Sadly, the only sizes had about... Let's start that again. Sadly, the only sizes available had the kilt about an inch longer than he would like. Are the bottom of the casual kilts treated in any special way, or would I be safe to just cut off the bottom inch? And then also we have a similar question.
Yeah, we had a late question that came in for the show in the same
from
vein.
Ed Easter. As a short person looking for secondhand and ex-hire kilts, I am finding it hard to source something with less than 23 in length. From a practical viewpoint, what are the disadvantages of having a hem kilt? I assumed it affects the swing, and could there be issues with the pleats? Any other reason why the salvage is better for the wearer?
Sure. I think I will speak for all 3 kilt makers in the room when I say, please, for the love of God, do not just cut the bottom of your kilt. No, it's not the bottom edge, the selvage edge, even if it's a tuck-in selvage or a tuck-in edge to the bottom of the kilt. It is not treated differently. It's the way that it is woven. So when a piece of cloth is on the loom at the mill in Scotland, basically there's two two or three types of looms that are used. One that provides a fringed or lino selvage, which is little fringy bits all around the very bottom of the material. In that instance, it has to be cut off and hemmed up. You would know if your kilt has a hem at the bottom. The second one is a rapier loom. That one actually has a tuck in at the very bottom, so about a quarter inch, or it could be a half inch up from the bottom of the kilt. The material is actually tucked up, or each individual yarn is tucked back up into the actual weave. And then there's a daub cross loom, or a loom that gives a traditional selvage. And there's some new high-speed looms that do the same thing. That it's actually just one piece of yarn that goes back and forth, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. That is the bottom edge of the cloth. If you cut that, it will fray. So do not cut the bottom of a kilt. If it needs to be shortened, there are two ways to shorten it. You can either hem a kilt, or you can cut the kilt down from the top. Now, cutting the kilt down from the top is much, much, much more involved. It's going to be much pricier. It involves taking out basically the entire guts of the upper portion of the kilt, so the lining and the horsehair lining and the stuff like that. You'll have to extend down the bottom of the fell. If you're going to cut down 1 inch off the top, you have to extend the bottom of the fell about 1 inch. And then you have to put the horsehair canvas lining back in it. You have to put the regular lining back in it, or put the waistband back on. It's a whole process. And you have to move the buttonhole down. You have to move the buckles down. You have to move the straps down on the front apron. Really, there's going to be some reshaping in the front apron. So it's involved. Option B is hemming the bottom of the kilt. So if the kilt is 1 inch too long, then you have to hem the bottom of the kilt. Are there any problems with only hemming the kilt 1 inch, though, Mac?
Well, the biggest thing is you're going to have the pleats. Depending how short your hem is, you always want to have a decent amount, because otherwise it starts belling out. So your pleats are going to hang down, and then they're going to bellow out from there. So you're creating a weird bubble at the bottom, but you want to make sure that is deep enough so that it lays a little flatter. With 1.5 inches, 2 inches is probably more ideal. 1 inch is
A little light.
Yeah, it's getting on that edge of that line.
Yeah. Now, one of the things is when you hem the bottom of a kilt, you want to make sure that you are I would say start, if you're going to hem the bottom of a kilt, start by on the bottom, let's say 6 inches, using a steam iron and taking out all of the creases of the bottom of all the pleats. And you want to make it a nice flat area at the very bottom. Then you hem up the kilt, 1.5 inches, 2 inches is ideal for hemming. And then you are going to iron the pleats back in. Now, when you iron or press the steam the pleats back in, you're gonna put a lot of elbow grease into it. I'm thinking off the top of my head here. You want to make sure that from the outside, you're aligning, you make sure that the pleats are going, very, very straight down, and you're continuing that straight, that's the same line that the upper portion where it's creased is going all the way down to the bottom. And I would do a reasonable press there, and potentially use a press cloth. So a press cloth, for those who don't know, is like just a piece of cloth, whether it's a white handkerchief or an old bed sheet or something like that. Something you don't care if you get a little bit of a shine on it. But you're going to put that on the very, very bottom of the kilt and kind of push the iron onto that and put the steam through that and try to work that in, versus applying the iron directly to the cloth, because you're going to be pushing onto it, and where the top of the hem is, it's going to be kind of like a step down in the cloth, and putting a hot iron underneath that kind of step down, it's going to shine the cloth. You're actually going to like burn it a little bit, that it's going to make a shine there. So to avoid that, use a press cloth, because then you're going to put the shine on the actual, the handkerchief or whatever, and not onto the actual wool fabric itself.
Yeah, the other thing you got to be wary of is the lines of the tartan. So if you're hemming it up that little bit, you could have a bold line across that bottom, and if you're not ironing that straight enough, that line is gonna zigzag across the bottom line. So you got to make sure that when you're ironing, that's spot on.
Yeah. A, when you're ironing it, it's spot on. B, when you're hemming it up and sewing it, that it's spot on. Yes, 100% on both of those. And you can either use an invisible blind stitch machine, which we have here. You can use a hand sew technique where you're only picking essentially one thread off the front and you're doing everything through the back. You can do a hard hem and just like top stitch the actual material. You're going to see that from the front of the kilt, so there's better ways to do it. But yeah, trying to think if there's anything else. Ian, is there anything else that we've forgotten for hemming a kilt?
I'd say you've covered it all. Mac talked about the Goldilocks zone, and yeah, that covers it. But Jason, oh my God, if you cut an inch off of that kilt, I have a very particular set of skills. I will come there. I will find you.
Yes. Do you never, ever, ever cut the bottom of a kilt. It will fray. It's not going to unravel because it's not a knitted fabric. So it's not going to be like you pull one thread and it all goes away. But it will, it's woven, so it will fray a bit over time, and it's just going to look blah. Blah. It's an official term. Indeed. Very good. Hope that helped. All right, Ian.
Yes.
What do we have rolling in from the audience, peoples?
We have just a few questions. Folks, please do get some more questions in so that we have plenty here. Phoenix Ferris on YouTube has asked us, how do y'all recommend choosing tartans for the seasons? I'm thinking of getting my next kilt in the fall and was considering County Down or County Roscommon.
Yeah. There you go.
Down is a great choice.
Absolutely.
That should be a bit of a copycat.
It's been done.
It's been down.
So last season.
Yes, there are people who will wear, just in the same way you wear your regular clothes. You wear fall colors in the fall. You may have an orange sweater or something that's a little more autumnal, or browns and that kind of thing. People do the same kind of thing with tartans. So if you're looking for fall color tartans, I'd say down is a great choice. The Buchanan tweed that we have is a good choice. Buchanan weathered. A lot of weathered tartans would be good for it as well. Good point. Mac, what are your favorite fall type tartans?
Fall, Maple Leaf, I think, is a good fall one. Or Coolins of Sky is another good one. Those both those are actually on my short list.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of where I go right away when I think fall.
Okay.
Ooh, pick me. Pick me.
Yes, you with the hair.
I have lots of opinions on this, given that my color palette is generally very fall a lot of the time. And I have in progress, my next kilt is very fall. It's a new one, not on the website yet, but we can get it. Old Scotland tweed.
Yes.
It is a fabulous one.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Roscommon and Down are both good choices. Dark Island Peat from the Hebridean line is also a good choice.
Okay, then let's expand this discussion. Top two, we'll keep it at two, tartans for each season. So we've done fall.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do winter. Top two.
Dark Island Sky from the Hebridean line, kind of
Okay.
blacks and blues.
Either one or two. You can do one if you want.
I'm not quite ready, so we'll stick with the one.
Okay, Mac.
Stewart of Appin 1842 variant.
Stewart of Appin 1842 variant. Okay, that is your winter tartan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's in winter, not Christmas.
Well, it's in the season. Yeah, by 4 days. All right, my winter tartan, Nordic Heritage, to be premiered towards the end of this show. You'll find out why soon. Exactly. All right, Ian, spring.
Okay.
What do we got for spring tartans?
Well, if we're going holidays,
Don't have to do holidays.
Cameron of Lochiel Ancient or Taylor Ancient would be great for Easter.
Yeah. Okay. Spring.
Spring, yeah, that's...
I got one.
I'm going to go, and it's kind of along the same lines, but McLean Adort Modern.
Okay.
It's very bright.
Okay. For spring, I'm going to go Isle of Skye.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah. It's got nice spring. It's got a little purple in there, a little brown, little greens. That's good. All right. Ian. But we're
Before we move on,
Okay.
the marketing stooges have come up with an answer to this question.
Marketing stooges.
Yes.
That's what we apparently call them. The kind, good folks that work with us are stooges. Indeed.
They make the show run.
Indeed.
But
Give
with,
Ian like a handlebar mustache for this part. Yeah.
with some beautiful greens and browns, be perfect for spring. We've got the Shrek. We don't have, but there is the Shrek tartan.
Yeah. I think I have an idea of exactly which marketing stooge. Pick the Shrek target. All right. So summer. Summer. What was a good summer one?
What colors do you think of for summer? I guess like gold for like the
Reds.
sun?
Yeah.
I don't know that I have a great answer for this one.
I don't know if I have a good answer for summer either.
Dundee.
Okay. Okay.
Which
I
one's
see
that
it.
one again?
It kind of reminds me of like orange marmalade,
Okay.
but a little bit more on the redder scale.
Okay. Very delicious tartan then. Gotcha.
I'm going through the mental Rolodex. I'm not coming up with anything for summer.
Like the other way I go is like, but it's a little bit more in the mute. Like I would go like Barclay,
Okay.
like the golden.
Yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe like the Alaska State seal tartan, just because how bright it is.
It's more winter though, because it's
Yeah.
like it's grays and that ice
Yeah.
blue kind of color.
That's fair.
Maybe inspired some other designs to be announced later on in the show.
American Dream.
American Dream. That's my summer tartan. Bam.
There we
you
go.
Got there.
That's what I was going to say.
Took us a while, but we
You
got
stole
there.
my answer, Mac. I have 100% had that in my brain right there. Indeed. No, yeah, 4th of July, very American,
Yeah.
very red, white, and blue. Yes, absolutely. That is like when I did it, I liked it. I felt like it was a good design, and it's grown on me even more. It's kind of becoming my go-to as I'm evolving a little bit past the weathers. May just be going to it because it's my new toy, so to speak. But yeah, I dig American Dream. Okay, that's it. Good, great answers. Good job, everybody. Us, go us. Thank you. Hope that helped. All right, Mac, what do we got?
All right. Speaking of tweeds, Sean is wondering about tweeds. How popular are they? And are there types of tweeds that tend to be used more than others?
How popular are tweeds? I'm assuming for kilts.
Tweed kilts, yes.
Yes. Okay. You're in production more. You see a lot more. Ian, we can even probably bring you in for this because you're down in the store now.
He
Okay.
writes the orders.
Yeah, he writes the orders. Tweeds that are popular now. Let's start with ignoring the fact the trend of tartan tweeds that has kind of blossomed in the last couple years. But tweeds for kilts.
Okay.
Have you noticed any trends within it?
We're seeing a big spike from a year ago in the Old Scotland tweed. A lot more orders than we had last year for that.
Old Scotland.
The one that I
tweed.
am working on.
Well,
Brand new. Didn't exist last year. That's why there's a big surge.
exactly. So that's why I'm saying let's leave the tartans off for now
Okay. Gotcha.
and start with the regular tweeds.
Okay.
He pays attention very well. He
Yes.
listens.
Yes.
No, but do you like window pane or window check or like this kind of thing versus well, that's similar. Versus something that's a little like a herringbone or just like
Yeah.
a Donegal tweed. What have we noticed?
I was gonna say right now we're getting a lot of blues in. Blues seem to be
Okay.
I've got like a darker, kind of like the Loman blue right now. Susie's finishing up.
Okay.
There's a Love It blue I have for next week. We just did a Love It green recently. And a Love It green shawl. But yeah, Love It. I'd say the blues seem to be the trend right now. Greens were kind of stopped, and now the blues have taken over.
Okay. The one I'm really like, oh, man, I haven't seen many of those, and it's probably because we don't have them on the website. Is like the country checks. So there's like a bunch of different,
Gotcha.
smaller bands going across it. I'm surprised we don't get more of them for people coming into the store, kind of thing. But we don't have it on the website, so not a lot because it says it's not as popular a choice for jackets or vests.
We just had a guy not that long ago He ordered 3 tweeds, all window panes. All wanted them pleated a little bit different. Like typically with tweeds, especially if you're getting a jacket, it's taken a different way off the bolt. So there's a lot we have to do a lot more work with the tweeds, especially even with window panes, because now we're taking, instead of the bolt is run this way, we have to take strips of cloth vertically and then hem it. Going back to the previous discussion there. But they wanted it done to a particular stripe in that window pane, so we actually could take it normally like we would across the bolt. So hopefully, if he gets a jacket, it'll all work out.
Yeah,
I don't know if he did, but
yeah.
he just ordered 3 tartan tweeds or window pane tweeds. But yeah, he got 3 of them, and so one is in stock. We just did the one. The other 2 are on their way eventually here.
Nice. Now, when it comes to tweeds with window panes like this, if you actually look at the tartan the tweed that I have on, the stripes oftentimes on a tweed, the vertical stripes are a different color than the horizontal stripes. Typically, yours are not.
No, mine are
Typically, when I order a tweed, I don't like that as much. I like them, horizontal and vertical to be about the same. Now, if you look at the ones that I'm wearing right now, it is horizontal, or it is a tall, skinny box. It is not a perfect square. It's a tall, skinny box versus a short, wide box. So when you're making clothing, generally speaking, when you're making pants or a jacket or a vest or whatever, when you lay out the patterns on the bolt of cloth, you're laying them out across this way. So this vest, take it on me, turn it 90 degrees. This is how you're cutting out the pieces. You're not cutting them across the bolt. So if you're going to make a kilt from the same fabric, you have to make sure you're cutting the chunks up the bolt, because you're not able to get a nice big long piece like you would when you're doing a regular tartan kilt. So what ends up happening is, you have to cut, let's say, 3 sections up and then splice them end to end, and that's how you do it. However, you now have cut edges on what is now the bottom edge of the kilt, so then you have to serge that and actually hem that. So a lot of tweed kilts are actually hemmed. And there's a couple more splices involved in it.
Yeah, even the ones that don't have window pane, there's a herringbone twill in it. So you have that. You still have to do it that way for that weave, because again, if they're getting a jacket and vest with that, that's how the jacket and vest are going to be done, with that herringbone going a particular way.
Yep.
So we have to be conscious about that every time we do one, to go, all right, did they get this? Well, they might have this, so we still have to go this way.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot more to it than you actually realize. Now, one thing that we've seen over the last few years is an emergence in tweed tartans. I've seen, I won't say it started with, but I noticed it first from a lot of the mills out in the Hebrides, like small individual, crofters, people who actually have a loom in their house, like Harris Tweed, type companies, were doing tartan tweeds. They've been doing tartans, but generally they're just like kind of fashiony designs, for the fashion industry, not honest to God tartans. And then I saw a couple of them start doing Blackwatch and maybe Buchanan and a couple others, and then it kind of took off a little bit. And then some of the larger mills noticed that, Loch Heron has done it, House of Edgar's, not really tweed, they've done their Hebridean range. Martin Mills has done some. So they started noticing that, like, hey, people are looking for that kind of stuff, and the weathered tartans, like, I think there's multiple things at play. The weathered tartans, the earthy kind of feel, have kind of become more popular, and tweeds have that texture look to them. So it kind of inspired them to go, hey, what if we, kind of combine this or did this in a slightly different way, just to add a little spice, a little something different, a little je ne sais quoi to the tartan industry. So I know Loch Heron started doing it, and then Martin Mills offered a range as well. And they've proven kind of popular.
Now, I'd be curious to know, and maybe you might have some more insight of this, like you started seeing like the tartan tweeds, like I've seen Blackwatch in modern suits and like modern suit jackets and that type of, so wonder if that started started first and kind of backfiltered in a way, where
In tweed in suits?
yeah,
Okay. I did not really see that. I didn't, but I'm not looking at suits generally speaking. I'm looking at, kilts. It may. Yeah, I could see that. Or more to the point, well, it probably came from, Harris tweed and that kind of thing.
that very well could
the
be.
point. Or even if it's just blazers, not necessarily a full suit, but just like the jackets and things like that. I could see that kind of carrying over. But the mills, God bless them. The Loch Carron, House of Edgar, Martin Mills, all of them try different things, and that's what kind of keeps the industry fresh and keeps it moving forward, is trying different things and seeing what happens. So it's innovation. It's doing things. It's a different twist on it. It may be, I do not know this to be true, but it may be, fashion houses. It's like Vivienne Westwood says, hey, I want, a Bruce Kennard, pink tweed, to make purses out of, or to do this out of, or whatever. So it's people coming up with different ideas within it that keeps it fresh, that keeps it moving, that also allows at the same time the heritage stuff to stay there and maintain and be the common thread within it, and be viable as an income and as a source of stuff for people to still order. But you need the contemporary stuff and the new ways to think about stuff to kind of work hand in hand with it. So you need the new to support the old, and then you need the old and the tradition to support the new in different ways.
Now, do you think this would be kind of like a trend, like the solid black or the black shadow type thing, where that kind of went up and spiked and then just kind of teetered down? Or...
Yeah, I think this has a bit more staying power. I agree it's a trend, but I think there's a bit more staying power because you're just combining two traditional Scottish things or cloths, between the tweed and the tartan. So the black shadow tartans, or a navy, or there's a few different colors that they did. Those were just a bit of a shtick. It's something fun. This is fun, but has other utilitarian type uses across different industries, and it's it's something different, and it's fun, but at the same time it still draws on the tradition. So, and I could see it being used across different things. So I think it has more staying power than the black shadow tartans. You?
I hope so.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it too. Yeah. All right, very good. Mr. Ian, was that ours or was that yours?
It was ours.
It was ours?
Okay, then let's go with a question from JF73F on YouTube. Care to guess what that stands for? You seem to have a giggle there.
No, I just was I was waiting for like Fitzgerald or something else to pop up there.
Maybe. So he wants to know, thoughts on shooting socks and kilt hose. Are they interchangeable?
Shooting socks and kilt hose. They are really close. I'd say they are close enough for government work, as the phrase goes. The shooting socks are generally worn with like +4s or +2s, which are the long pants that you wear when you're out shooting grouse or whatever in the moors in Scotland. They're real close to kilt hose. It's basically long socks that come up and meet the bottom of the pants, or +4s. So they're very, very close. I have 1 or 2 pair that I've ordered from, I think, House Cheviot, and they are a little bit longer than my kilt hose. So I'll pull them down a touch more so that it's a little bit thicker of a cuff that's coming back down, but it's within tolerance. If you see a color or you see a pattern that's not available in kilt hose, but it is available in shooting socks, yes, I wouldn't hesitate. I would still do it.
And it's a better option than soccer socks.
Oh Jesus!
I mean, you're going down a parallel road with these, so it's the same things they're used for. You're down a parallel road.
Yeah. Same thing with there's a cheaper variations on kilt hose. Soccer socks can be used in a pinch, I will say begrudgingly, or rugby socks. It's basically high socks that come all the way up to the knee, and you fold it back down a little bit. I don't like the look because they're so flat, and there's like no real pattern to them. So if you're just getting into it and you're looking for the cheapest thing available, or you already have a pair because you're a rugby player or a soccer player, sure, I guess you could do it, but it's not my ideal. The shooting socks do have patterns. Mm-hmm. They're much more expensive, but they're a better match for what you're trying to go for.
The soccer sock thing I could get behind, especially if it's for a kid.
Yeah.
It's somebody that's going to grow out of it a lot quicker, and some of these kilt hose aren't as you can't find in some of the smaller sizes. So for a kid, I think that's a easier budgeted option there.
Yeah, especially if they're looking to grow out of it. Now, hose aren't extremely expensive.
Well, that's true.
Yeah,
yes.
And I wouldn't buy my kid a pair of shooting hose at $50-$60.
That's true.
But yeah, if you can't find a pair of $20 kilt hose for a child size or less than $20, then yeah, soccer socks would be okay. Yeah, that was kind of a weird turn, but sure.
Yeah,
indeed. All right, Mr. Mack.
All righty. So we have Kevin Wilson asking. Sometimes I have to wear a back brace and a knee brace because of this I can't wear a kilt belt or sporran, and I can only wear one flash when I wear a kilt kilt hose instead of two. Should I not wear a kilt when I can't wear the accessories, or should I continue to wear the kilt and adapt to my situation?
Okay, and I think we actually have a photo of this gentleman that he submitted to us. So he's in some kind of medical device. I'm assuming, based on the fact that it's not a full-on wheelchair, he probably needs some kind of assistance walking, but he's able to walk in some way, shape, or form. And I actually reached out to him on the question, and I frankly didn't check the answer because I got busy today. However, so that gives a little bit of context to the question. Mm-hmm. So I have two ways to take this. One is a practical way, and the other is my personal way. I'll start with the personal thoughts on it. I wouldn't let a physical disability stop me from doing something I wanted to do. If I'm trying to express my heritage and I'm not doing it quite right because of this reason or that reason, it's not gonna stop me from doing it. It shouldn't stop you from doing it. You've had a challenge in your life. You have barriers to overcome, and it is just part of who you are. It's the old, it is what it is. You got to suck it up and deal with it. And that's not meant to sound harsh, because I would do the same thing. It's just, yep, this is where I am. I'm going to accept my reality, and I'm going to figure out a way around it. I'm going to figure out a way through it. I'm going to figure out my way that I'm going to deal with this and express my heritage. And if somebody has an issue with that, they got an issue with that. I don't care. I don't listen to those who say you're doing that a little bit wrong or that a little bit wrong. It doesn't matter. What you do and how you cope with your situation in life is really all that matters in all this. So if you want to wear a kilt and you can't wear a sporran, or you can't wear your kilt hose or one pair of flash, whatever it is, for whatever reason, just do it. Do the best you can, get through it, express your heritage the way you want to, the way you are able to, and that's really all that matters, period. Now, for practical advice, I would say this. There are ways to kind of cheat it and get around it. So let's actually, I've taken a bit of airtime. Mac, what do you think, what would you do if you're in that kind of situation? What advice do we have for our friend here?
So I'm gonna start at the bottom and kind of go up, because he talks about only being able to wear one set of flashes. Okay. So we have, and there's other people out there who have them, garter ties. They're a lot longer. That's an option. You could kind of wrap them around a little differently. We've also had the thing where we've had guys with larger calves that we've either made a longer piece of elastic with some Velcro to be able to wrap around that brace a little bit more. So, like, I think there's ways potentially there, or even thinking way outside the box on this, is on the inside of the brace, sticking the flashes on the inside of that brace. If that brace is wrapped around his leg, he could potentially stick a set of flashes up under there, either hooking with a Velcro piece on the inside of the brace and on the outside of the flashes, so you're hooking them together as it's wrapped around. Like, there's, depending on how the brace is hooked. But that's where I kind of lean right away with that.
Yeah. I will say, to that end, necessity is the mother of invention. So if you have to jury rig it to the outside of the brace, do that. The one thing that popped into my head when I saw the picture of the gent, his legs didn't look, super, diesel calf, tree trunk guy. So the brace didn't look excessively huge outside of his leg. So what I would probably do is look for like a pair of like Lewis hose, the wide calf kilt hose, or kilt hose made for guys with wide calves, because it will be able to stretch onto the outside of the brace. So not that you need to hide any of your medical devices or condition kind of thing, but I would, if you got to wear a brace, then I'd wear a pair of wider top kilt hose and put them on the outside of the brace, and then wrap the flashes around to help hold it to the brace. And if you have even the wide hose on the other leg that you're not wearing the brace on, as long as you have your elastic garters snug enough, that could work. So yeah, you can absolutely get beyond the flashes thing, and even worst case scenario, if you can only wear one flash, it's fine. Wear one flash. And we talked to a guy with a military guy who lost his leg in the war, and he had a prosthetic leg, and he only wore one kilt hoe. Is that hoe is the singular? Sure, hoe. He wore one sock on one leg, and then the other leg he had a prosthetic leg. It is what it is. Now for the back brace, having to wear that with a kilt. What would your thought be there?
We had a customer, Marty, who he had a situation where he couldn't have any pressure around his waist. So we worked with him on a couple different ideas. We tried Velcro, we tried buttons, we tried a couple different scenarios there. But that was, again, trying to come up with something that he didn't have that tight pressure going around his waist. And again, whether is it a pressure thing? Or is it just that the belt that he has isn't big enough?
Oh, it's a back brace.
Yeah.
So I don't know if
that's why I wasn't sure if it was how that brace. Which I think was the question we were asking him about. Was that specifically about that brace? But again, if his, depending on his mobility, wearing that back brace, the belt isn't really. It's the least of my worries is that belt.
Yeah. When I'm thinking of a couple things. I can understand how you wouldn't be able to or wouldn't want to wear a kilt belt with a back brace. And based on the thing he had on in the photo there, it was a bit, it was up around the middle. My brain goes to like a cummerbund essentially, kind of width of the thing. So I would kind of go two ways with it. One, I would potentially get a longer sporn chain or sporn strap to be able to wear it with the brace, or if it's not wanting to put pressure on the lower back or something like that. The other thing I would potentially, again, going back to DIY, necessity being the mother of invention, if you think of sporn hangers, it goes underneath your belt. It's basically like the little fob thing that when you wear in like a biker wallet that the end of the chain attaches to that goes over top of the belt. That's what sporn hangers are. I could see doing two long sporn hangers to go all the way up over the back brace thing.
Okay.
So wear that underneath, or basically like unsnap them, put on the back brace, and then put the other thing down on top, and then hang the sporran from that. So the sporran is actually hanging from the back brace.
Okay.
Something to that effect. If you're in the medical device, the wheelchair-y thing, and you have to, and you're seated, wearing a sporran wouldn't be a problem. You just wear it really, really loose. If you're going to be walking around with it, then maybe attaching it to the back brace would be okay. But I would not put much in the sporran. I would keep it light so it's not screwing up your back as you're walking around with it. But ultimately, I don't think none of these suggestions, if it's not physically able for your situation, none of that should stop you. You should wear the kilt how you are able to wear it. And if you can't, even if you can't wear a kilt, fine, just sit with a tartan blanket in your lap to represent your heritage. You can do it the way you want to do it. I understand the need or the desire to kind of tweak it to make it work and get as close to traditional looking as possible, but you're in a situation and just saying, well, this is what I can do, and honestly being honest with yourself and being fine with yourself and accepting your situation and accepting yourself and saying, this is what I am able to do to be able to express it. That is the thing that actually matters. And everyone else's opinions can be damned. None of it matters. Just the fact that you're trying to do it yourself. Indeed. So get out there and win one for the Gipper. And, just make do with your situation. Do it the best you can. No one is going to fault you for it. And if they do, frankly, they're an asshole for saying something.
Yeah.
So don't worry about it to start with. That's all I got to say about that. All right, Mr. Ian.
First of all, language, Mr. Rager.
Yes, indeed.
So we've got a question here from Liam from TikTok. I'm surprised you're letting your son on
Yeah, so
TikTok at
your
such
son's on
a young
TikTok?
age. But he's apparently getting married in Scotland next year. He's not Scottish. Would it be appropriate to do so? If so, what would you recommend?
Sure. Yes, we have a lot of customers who want to get married or are getting married in Scotland, and they want to get a kilt for their trip to Scotland. Absolutely, it is 100%. I would actually probably say it is the most traditional thing for you to do to get married in Scotland in a kilt. Over in Scotland, they do not wear kilts every day. Generally speaking, they will save them for special events. So wedding is the absolute perfect excuse, if you're Scottish or if you're an American and visiting Scotland, to wear a kilt in Scotland. So 100% yes, get a kilt from us. Get a kilt and go to Scotland and get married in the kilt. Yes, absolutely. Mac.
I mean, at first I thought he was questioning if he should get married. That was,
Well,
that was where I was wondering where
I
that
mean,
question was going.
fair enough.
But yeah, I mean, why not? You're while in Rome.
Yeah.
Might as well go all in, push all those chips forward.
Do as the locals do.
Yeah.
Exactly. And if Brittany is watching, I made him say that he was questioning being married. Don't divorce him. All right. Now, before we get to the next question,
Yes, it is about that time.
it's about that time. Should we unveil a new tartan? No, not yet. It's coming. Going to unveil the Nordic Heritage tartan later in the show. Stay tuned. But now, top of the hour, we are going to do our Kilt Ambassador of the Month.
Our Kilt Ambassador today is Stephen Walters of Long Island. Steve describes himself as a typical melting pot American. His heritage on his mom's side goes back to County Cork in Ireland. His dad's side includes both Ireland and Scotland, and has probable links to the Buchanan and Scott clans. And for spice, he's also got some Norwegian and Italian in the mix. He says he really loves sharing his genealogical and cultural discoveries with his family, especially his son. Steve is a paramedic. His start in the profession began when his godfather, who was an EMT, died of complications following a car accident. Steve explains, "I wanted to see if I could do the things this man I looked up to could. So I became an EMT and joined our local volunteer service. I found I liked the job and it felt like what I was supposed to be doing. Steve started working as an EMT for a major NYC hospital, mostly in Queens. Later, he became a paramedic. It's not work for the faint of heart, let me tell you. On any given shift, Steve can go from a stabbing incident to transferring a 2-hour-old baby to treating a heart attack victim. Steve was on the front lines through the pandemic, working in some of New York's hardest hit areas. He says simply that it just keeps him on his toes. Now, he's currently a lieutenant in his volunteer ambulance company, and he also mentors a youth squad, which he helped start. Steve got his first kilt for St. Paddy's Day in 2020. The plan was to wear it for the parades and the parties, but of course that never happened. He finally got to wear it a year later, and that got him hooked. He went from wearing a kilt to weddings and festivals to wearing them 3 or 4 times a week. He's also gotten his son into wearing a kilt. No surprise there. Steve explains that after working through the pandemic, kilts became a sort of metaphorical screw you to COVID. After going through everything he did, he says he saw it as something he could do to make himself happy, which sounds about right to me. Normally, for work, Steve wears uniform pants, but sometimes if he's called out suddenly for support, he just might end up kilted on the ambulance. He says, recently, a crew asked for additional manpower for a call that turned out to be a cardiac arrest. I had to explain to the family how we were doing everything the ER would be doing, and giving them all the information I could. While fighting back tears, they thanked me, looked down to see the kilt, looked back up, and smiled. That patient survived and is doing well. When you can make someone smile while they're having one of their worst days, it's powerful. Working as a paramedic is clearly something that Steve is proud of. Most of the time, it's not action and saving lives, it's basically holding Granny's hand and calming her down, helping her realize everything's going to be okay. He says he's met so many interesting people on the ambulance that he's become a collector of stories. He's met a Tuskegee Airman, women who survived Auschwitz, people who have traveled the globe, and some pretty amazing stories from everyday people. He says that's an unexpected bonus of the job. Now, to relax, Steve enjoys music, especially Celtic punk, and plays bass. We actually first met him at our beloved Celtic Classic Music Festival, in fact. But Steve's biggest hobby right now is leatherwork. He crafts everything from radio straps for his friends to sporrans and kilt belts. Hang out on the Kilts and Culture Facebook group, and you'll probably get to see some of his stuff eventually. So, in closing, I want to applaud Steve for his energy, positive attitude, and seriously hard work. And hey, he informed me that the 49th annual National EMS Week is this month, May 21st to 27th. The goal is to bring recognition to the dedication of EMS providers, agencies, and partners. And there are a number of events. So, if you work in the field, thank you. If you know someone in the field, let them know you respect and appreciate them.
So, here's to Steve, our ambassador of the month. Well, Slanjava. Steve is a very nice guy. I got to actually speak to him a little while. We were at Tartan Week a few weeks ago in New York City. He was there with us, and we had a few drinks, or 6, down in the hotel lobby, a whole group of us, and he brought a sampler pack.
Yeah.
If you watch Jace's faces, what was the one that we gave him?
I don't know.
The one that Chase did, Jace did live from Tartan Day. He did not like it. Oh my God, it was horrible. It was a great reaction.
Yeah, it was.
It's probably the best reaction that he's had. Yeah, that was one of Steve's whiskeys that I brought for us. So, indeed, cheers. Mm-hmm. All right, Mac, what is our next question?
Alrighty. So, let's see. So this comes from Coffin M. James, or James M. Coffin, depending on how you...
James B. Coffin.
What is the most unusual tartan you get asked to be made at USA Kilts? Unusual tartan.
Most unusual tartan. We'll bring Ian in for this one as well, because he's going to be
most unusual tartan. Knocks out a lot of interesting options off the list.
Yeah, it's the we get it. There's been like a weird explosion of custom woven tartans in the last 2.5 years. So those would be by default unusual because it's individual people ordering their tartan. But most unusual, Ian, tartan that we've been asked about
Unusual
to be woven?
tartan.
Yeah.
So there's lots of interesting fabrics that people want us to make kilts out of sometimes, but that's not the question here.
Yeah.
It's hard to make me think a tartan is unusual because I've seen so many. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
I don't know how to answer this one.
Okay. I got one.
Go for it.
Mac, do you have any?
Like,
Maybe this will trigger an idea for
I
me.
think the again, kind of like an unusual one for us. I think is the transit police that we just got up recently. That
Yeah.
was a little different.
Yeah,
and
New Jersey Transit Police. They use, but they're not using their own tartan.
Yeah.
They're using, it's like a specific Scottish Presbyterian church's tartan in Scotland that they had to get special permission for.
And it's the warp and weft are different on it or something?
No, you're thinking
That's
of
the
the
Homeland
Department of
Security.
Homeland Security
Yes.
tartan.
Yes. Okay.
Which again is another.
That was
another
kind of
one.
unusual. I didn't know the Department of Homeland Security had their own tartan.
You're not supposed to know.
Yeah, oh yeah.
No, the most unusual one that comes to my mind recently, we were contacted by a mason out in Colorado, and the universal
Do you do bricks or
Freemason
cement?
tartan, the Freemason tartan that exists is a lot of purple, and it's actually the Utah Grand Lodge tartan is what people know as the Freemason tartan, and a lot of Masons look at the tartan and are like, oh, that's a lot of purple. And blue is a very, very strong seminal color in Masonic stuff. So there's a gent in Colorado who who designed a tartan recently. I think there's like 6 shades of blue in it, and white and black kind of thing. So it's a pretty good design. For someone who just kind of came up with his first design. There's a ton of symbolism in it. And he's trying to get that kind of accepted by the Colorado Lodge and trying to get a big group order together for that one. I think he's calling that the Fidelity tartan.
Freemason's Fidelity.
Freemason's Fidelity. Yeah, that's a good-looking tartan. I would say that's the most unusual one that we've talked about that's going to be woven recently. I think it's actually on the website, isn't it? No, it's not yet.
I believe so.
It will be. Yes.
Interesting.
Indeed.
That was a bit of a soft reveal.
Yes. Yeah. Not the soft reveal of the Nordic Heritage tartan. Later in the show. Yes.
What was the we did one that was recently that was for the Sons of the American Revolution.
I'm going to say Sons of Anarchy.
At Philadelphia, they were basing it off of His Excellency George Washington's uniform. They had
What was that?
I forget what that was called now off the top of my head.
Yeah, that was a couple years ago, and my memory isn't that good.
I just remember trying to match the particular colors.
Yeah, he brought in
his-
like Washington's binder, or he brought in something, a book that was an artifact from George Washington, and we tried to match a particular color like tan
Yes.
from it. Yeah, what was that? I think it was like right before your time as store manager.
I've dealt with the kilts. I know which one you mean, but I don't remember the name of it.
Yeah,
I'm not
trying
going to.
It was like
Pennsylvania Sons of
Sons,
the American
that's what it
Revolution.
was, yes.
That's what it was.
We'll eventually get there.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, that's a pretty cool group too.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely an odd one.
Yeah.
So I do have an answer finally. There are a few custom weaves we've done relatively recently,
You
but
forgot that we don't care anymore. We've already moved past.
I'm just sitting here and sip my whiskey. That has been the good whiskey has been tainted with the aroma.
I know,
of salted
I
caramel.
know.
I'm so pissed to
I
ruin the good whiskey.
I poured water in it to try to swill out the. Or
so
like,
did I, and it did not work.
I know, not at all. It's very strong salted caramel flavor. All right, Ian, what is your
There's a couple that are unusual, but they're very personal ones to those people, and they're not readily available. So I don't know if it's if we should discuss them. But one that is pretty unusual in its color choices, if not its purpose, that we just had available recently was the Continue tartan. I'd say that's pretty unusual color palette for a tartan. So
Yep.
and it matches its purpose, so it's not unusual in a bad way.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The Continue tartan, for those who don't know, is a suicide awareness tartan that was done. I forget the gentleman's name.
Brad Wilson.
Wilson. Yes.
Not Brad Green. I've mixed up those two before.
Indeed.
Quite embarrassingly.
Yes. Yeah. So there's a lot of very cool new tartan designs, and the better ones, in my estimation, one man's not so humble opinion, the better tartan designs have meaning to them. It's got to have some kind of gravitas. So it's not just a smattering of colors for no reason at all, but it's, the ones like the continued tartan, ones like the Masonic tartan, there's loaded with meaning. That's what it pulls at my heartstrings, at my soul. So, indeed. Okay. Was that you or him?
That was us.
That was us. Ian,
I'm totally ready for a question.
I can tell.
Speaking of custom weaves,
Yeah. One job, Ian. One job.
Ron Dara asks, I would like to design a tartan for a very large organization that I belong to. He's not saying what organization.
Is it the
very
Sea Org?
suspicious?
Sea Org.
Yeah.
Who is that? What's that weird thing out in? Yeah. The cult thing. That's never mind.
You're gonna have to explain cult.
No.
thing.
the religious group that like John Travolta and Tom Cruise are in.
Oh, Scientology.
Scientology.
Yeah,
Yes.
there we go.
Yes. I hope it's not a Scientology.
It could be that, or he's maybe a secret spy club. I don't know, but he does say it's a
fair.
very large group.
With no boys allowed.
Um,
No girls allowed.
he says kilts are a tradition for this group.
It's a treehouse.
Could you have a discussion on this process? What does it take to get a custom weave done, a custom weave design and made?
Sure. To get a custom weave designed, you find a tartan designer. Well, I'd say this: start with the symbolism and the colors that you want to include. So if the group has colors with particular meaning, start with that. If the group has numbers with a particular meaning, whether it's the year that they're founded, whether it's the year of the age of the group or whatever, or if there's an anniversary that you're trying to, that there's reason to hook it to, the more symbolism and meaning you can ascribe to it, the more it will speak to people. If you just say, hey, I designed a blue, green, and pink tartan for this group, it's not going to mean much. But if you can hook ideas and meaning to it, it's going to have broader acceptance. Start there. I would say, if you're going to design a tartan for a group, here's a few tricks in dealing with pipe bands. There's a thing called death by committee. So start with a small, if you're going to have a committee, start with a small committee of an odd number, like 3 people, or a few people that you want to get some input from in the design process. Get what colors they think of when they think of your group. What numbers or what dates or what things have meaning within your group. So start there. Then play with the designs. And I would say start with looking at existing designs that you like or that the group likes. And say, like, if Royal Stewart is one, or MacDonald, or the American Dream tartan, or Scottish National, or whatever. Start with designs that you like the feel of and try to figure out why you like the feel of them. Is it because of the balance? Is it because of asymmetry? Is it because of a gradient effect? Is it because of the meaning of that tartan in your group is from Scotland, so you want to base it off of Scottish National? You have to find things that you want to hook into and yeah. So start there and kind of design it in that way, in that vein, and then play with it so you can be inspired by things. Every idea is stolen. Every idea started somewhere. There's no new original idea under the sun. So you start with an inspiration and you kind of move from that direction. Then you go to a website that has a tartan designer, usakilts.com. We have our own tartan designer. There's other ones that are out there. But you have your own color palette. You have the meanings that you have, kind of sitting down, and then you just kind of play with the different designs. The other thing I would say is don't just come up with a design and say, yep, that's it on day one. Come up with a design and then let it sit. Save it wherever you go. Save it, let it sit, and come back to it in 3 days, in 4 days, and look at it again with fresh eyes and say, is this still as good as I remembered? I would also say maybe come up with 2 designs or 3 designs and sort of make them very, very, very different. Force yourself outside of the box. Don't get pigeonholed into, I like Scottish National, so I'm going to base my design on Scottish National and just change the colors and call it done. Do that and then say, okay, well, maybe Scotland Forever. I like that tartan. Let's base some colors on that. Or American Dream, a tartan with a good gradient in it, and base your design on that. Come up with a few designs and see how you feel and see where it leads you. Then when you're ready to bring it to the group, I would say this, again, back to the death by committee. Don't bring one tartan, because then you're going to have 100 people's input. Don't bring 10 tartans, because you're never going to get a consensus. Bring at most 3. Bring 2 or 3 tartans to the group and see if there's a direction that the group wants to go, or to a small committee of 3 to 6 people, and then, go with it from there. But by the time you get to the bigger group, you don't want to have more than 1 or 2. If it's going to be a group vote, you don't want to have more than 1 or 2 for the group, or 2 to 3 for the group to vote on and say, yes, this is the one or that's the one. And then you just go majority rules. But you don't want it to languish in hell or purgatory that is group by, or death by committee. Sorry, that was a very, very long-winded, comprehensive thought process, but
No, I mean you deal with this more than I do, so you definitely got the more of the input. But a lot of what you're saying is a lot of things that you said you've run into. It's exactly that. It's too many people involved, and it just sits there and goes in the wash machine, just sits there and spins. It's nothing ever gets moved. But yeah, like any piece of art, like you said, do one, do another one. You completely erase that palette and start over again, and you're gonna find things like, ooh, I kind of like that now. Ooh, now I kind of like this, and then you start combining some of those elements together. Now you've come up with something else. And just remember, everything's Blackwatch in the end. So
yes, everything is Blackwatch. The other thing that kind of jumped out at me when you're looking at the symbolism, you want to collect as much data and as much input in the colors and in the meanings as you can, but ultimately the design has to be good. So don't feel the need to include every single person's little bit of thing in the design. If you have 15 colors that everyone has put in their 2 cents and you end up with 15 colors, you're not going to be able to get 15 colors into a design. You want to stick to like 6 or 7 max. And even 7 kind of can limit you to where things can be woven. So really 6 is about the maximum number of colors you want to put in a design. And you don't want to have too much meaning, because again, you're kind of gilding the lily, and it's like, all right, buddy, enough with all this symbolism. You want to have enough for it to mean something. You want to have the key components for the thing, but you have to boil down all of the input, and ultimately one person has to be the one to say, okay, well, this one color is kind of the outlier and doesn't work with the rest of the design. And if I try to include turquoise into this otherwise, very somber or whatever design, it throws off the balance entirely. Don't sacrifice a good design for one random color. Using my most recent personal example, when we were designing, Eric and I designed the Nordic Heritage tartan. One of the colors that Eric really wanted to incorporate in, and we actually had thread samples of a particular shade of purple that was was made by the lichen in Norway, or I think it was Norway. But it was a particular dye that they would use. I'm like, oh, we should try to include that color purple in the design. That would be a really cool element to kind of have a twist on it and include it in the design. It means something. We tried a couple different ways to get purple into the design, but none of it felt right with the rest of the design. And the rest of the design felt very good. So we didn't want to sacrifice the overall design just to shoehorn in one color and feel like we were forcing it in there when it didn't work. Ultimately, it's an art. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And you can't feel bad. You can't hamstring yourself in designing the tartan. It has to work together. You want to incorporate symbolism, but not so much that it just kind of loses all meaning. And you don't want to hamstring yourself by saying it has to be based on this and limit your ability to change things up and limit your ability to have a good design. When I did stuff with Piper Alley, originally it was adopted, and her adoptive father was a Duncan, and she wanted to base her design on the Duncan tartan because that was a good nod to her family, her adoptive family. But when she started playing around with it, it's a very, very simple kind of design, and it just didn't work, and she wasn't feeling any of it. So she eventually just said, "Look, we got to go a different direction. I can't have my design based on Duncan because it's not part of my brand. It's not how I'm feeling about it." So we went a different direction. Ultimately, it's still tartan. She's still giving a nod to her adoptive family's Scottish lineage, but she didn't want to force it and end up with a design she wasn't pleased with just to have a design. So that's kind of where, this is a long-winded answer to a reasonably simple question, but I hope this kind of thing helps and helps you and other people who are trying to design their own tartan. Don't end up with a bad design based on trying to incorporate too many colors or too many numbers or whatever. The design is the thing that people are going to really, either love or hate. So incorporate some symbolism, but really focus on coming up with a good design. Yes, I hope that helps. All right, was that you or Ian? That was Ian.
It was
Mr.
me,
Matt.
but we have some interesting follow-up questions
Sure,
that are very
sure, bring it
related
on.
if we want to sneak these in. So I'm going to try to pronounce this name as I'm seeing it. It's Yitf Chris over on YouTube. He says, I think after that, people are curious about the buying process after a design has been established. Who to contact, yardage minimums, basic ballpark price for that yardage, etc., then on to a kilt maker.
Sure.
So I'd start by saying contact me.
Yeah. Obviously we own a kilt company, so we're going to say contact USA Kilts. Yardage depends on the price depends on the amount of yardage. So the price depends on a lot of things. One, is there a custom color? Is there a particular Pantone number that you must have for your organization? If that is the case, it may drive the price up. Two, are you looking for marled yarns or just flat yarns? That may affect the availability of colors as well. Are you looking for just enough for you, or are you looking enough for your family, or are you looking enough for are you looking enough for Nike, like an international organization with billions of people?
Or spy agency.
So, that is kind of it's very fluid. So it can be as little as in $1,200 to $1,500 for one individual person, one piece of cloth, 10 yards single width, or it can be, regular price. And I'm not going to quote prices because this video is going to be up on YouTube at some point, and it's going to be around for not just now, it's going to be around for the future. So it's going to be regular price, meaning the same as any stock supported. If I'm weaving 300 yards of cloth, the mill is going to charge me essentially the same price that they're going to charge for Royal Stewart or for any other regular clan tartan. So if that's the case, then it'll be regular price. There's not going to be a difference if you order, all these kilts in your specific tartan, or if you're ordering, one clan tartan for for yourself. So the price really runs the gamut from regular price to double regular price or exorbitantly expensive based on how much you're doing. Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
any more detail than that, and this video wouldn't be very evergreen. So,
Yeah, exactly.
Shoot an email to ian@usakilts.com, and we can go over all the details about your specific project.
Yes, or sales at usakilts.com, because Ian will eventually die.
We'll see.
He doesn't know I got a plan next week. Well, we'll have his forward. His email will just forward.
Just forward on.
It's fine.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Mack.
All right. So Charles wants to know, what new tartans are coming out in PV?
We've had 3 new tartans in the there. We've had 3 new tartans in the last 3 months.
Yeah.
So it's tartans in PV are when we want to design new tartans in polyviscose fabric. We can't just order 30, 40 yards. We have to order 300, well, to get a reasonable price, air quotes, and even that's subjective. We have to order 300 meters of a particular tartan. So bring those back up on the screen for me. So in the last 3 months, we've come out with from the left to right, the Black Watch weathered tartan, which is
Over here.
this one. And then we've done the American Dream tartan, which is there. And we've done the Sterling Pink tartan, which is there. So it's not a small financial commitment. Unfortunately, I am not independently wealthy. So it's one of those things where we have to kind of come out with them. We have to be sure that we got to be damn sure they're going to sell. And we have to, it's a reasonable financial outlay to make them exist. And the other fun thing that we just kind of found out a few months ago was that if there are more than 6 colors in any of our PV tartans, we either have to order a minimum of 300 yards or meters, or we get charged an extra 2 pounds a meter, which equates out to $250, $280 in dollars, which when you're ordering, a couple hundred yards, that's a lot more money. So indeed, we are coming out with as many as we see as viable. If there are particular tartans that you think have mass appeal and we're going to sell billions of meters, let us know in the comments. But it's one of those where it's very much the balance between what do we think we can sell in a reasonable amount of time, meaning within a year or two of buying the cloth, so that we're not financially strapping our company to come out with other things, come out with new products, and come out with other cool stuff. One of the things we love doing is product development. We have a few new things in the works aside from the Nordic Heritage thing, which I keep teasing. We have new buckles we want to do, new kilt pins we want to do, new sporns. There's all kinds of
Hose.
There's hose. We want to do a new thing in hose or
Kirk, get that wallet out.
exactly. There are
Coming for
new
you, Robert.
things that we want to do, but there's not enough time or money to be able to do all the things we're trying to get to. So tartans is only one way that we are trying to honor heritage yet innovate simultaneously. So if there's any new tartans that you want to see that we think can have mass appeal, let us know. But there are so many things that we want to get to that we are so ambitious to do while honoring heritage and tradition. There's not enough time and money to do it all.
I mean, we all wish we could have more, everything that's being woven in wool in PV. It would be awesome if that was the case. But even the mill has called the list at times too and said, hey, this one's not selling, this one's not doing as good as we hoped it to be. I think the 3 that we just had, well, 2 of the 3, because the 2 of them only exist in wool, they are good representations of even the wool palette.
Yeah.
Because there's a big difference between something in wool and something in PV too.
Yep. And custom dyeing colors in polyviscose is much different than custom dyeing colors in wool. That's a lot easier because it's one single material, so wool, versus polyester and rayon, so it's a 2-part dye process, which adds a lot to the cost. And their stock color palette range for PV is much smaller than it is for wool. So you have top dyed versus yarn dyed. It gets into the weeds very, very quickly, and it's much more complicated than I realized. Just wanting to do it. Well, I want this particular shade of green, and I'm going to order a bunch, so do it. Like, no, that's going to add cost, and then they explain why, and it's a nightmare. But we're doing our best. So if you like the stuff that we're coming out with in PV, buy it so that we can do more. Yes, hope that helps, kind of. All right, Mr. Ian.
Yes. I'm going to go over here for a question. From our good friend Brian Taylor, who I know is in the chat here with us today. He wants to know, when is there going to be a Kilts and Culture charity gala? I'm packing now.
KNC charity gala. I don't have any plans for a charity gala. Gala or gala?
I've heard both.
Indeed. However, if you want to get together with the Kilts and Culture crew, the next spectacular time to do that, June 10th. We're having our 20th anniversary party here in the shop. So if you need to feel the community in physical presence versus virtual, then mark it on your calendars. June 10th, come out to the shop and drink and party with us, if that matters, or if you want to.
I mean, if Brian wants to roll out the red carpet for us while he's here and brings paparazzi along, we can go all in on this then.
We have our own paparazzi.
That's true. But we pay them, though.
That's fair. That's fair.
I will have to add, though, Rocky, it's a shame you're not planning this charity gala, because I mentioned this question idea to some of the girls in the sales department downstairs earlier today, and they've already begun planning it. So.
Oh yes, they have their ball gowns. What is all involved in a charity gala?
So first we need to get you a ball gown. Photoshop that in, please, guys.
I would be delicious.
Be quite a snack.
I'll do that for you.
Would you do like a haggis dress instead of
the meat?
Yeah, so
Just the Lady Gaga. Yes, do the haggis.
Yeah.
Oh. You're making their photoshopping after the fact much more difficult.
We should time this to be at the same time as the Met Gala.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a competing event for those who are.
Indeed.
So someone's gonna come in with like kilt pins all like glued to them.
Glued? Commit to your bit, Mac. You got
Go
to
with the pin.
Piercings, yes. No, none of that at all. Okay. All right, Mr. Mac.
Speaking of kilt pins, Patrick is asking, okay, what are some examples of kilt pins that people have used that are not kilt pins?
Kilt pins that aren't kilt pins. Okay. All right. I think what he's referring to is any other pin that people would wear on their kilt in general. All right. Originally, kilt pins were, the big old diaper clip kind of, safety pins. That started with the military tradition. And then it kind of evolved from there. Edwardian times, people would wear a pin up higher than they would wear it today. There could be circular brooches versus, but it's kind of evolved and settled into a tall and skinny looking pin. I would say that people wear random things as kilt pins. I've seen, in my tenure here, or just images, I've seen a lot of random things as kilt pins. I've seen, let's say like turquoise jewelry, like Native American jewelry as kilt pins. I've seen like the little lapel badge things that you see like clan crests or coat of arms. I've seen people try to use those as kilt pins. I've seen band patches as kilt pin-esque. I've seen people with like a bunch of like punk rock pins all over the kilt, or like button pins. So it's really, it kind of boils down to personal preference, and it's just a statement of your personal statement, what you're gonna wear. For my money, things that tend to look better tend to be in the range of 3 inches to 4.5 inches tall, and taller and skinnier.
Mm-hmm.
It's the shape of a kilt pin to me is more tall, skinny. So as long as it's in that vein, there is room, in my estimation, for personal expression. But I wouldn't do like wide and skinny necessarily. And I would say that, yeah. And there is room for personal expression. Mac.
I think a lot of the things that you were talking about was like, what we see is it's all little pins. It's all like 3 or 4 little pins that now equal that weight of that bigger pin. So you're almost better off going for that, if you're especially really looking for that weight, going for that bigger pin right off the bat. One of the things, he's talking about like unique things. Like you see a lot of like military guys like wearing like some of their pins,
Collar dogs or whatever.
or like the EGA, wearing that on there. But it's again, they're smaller things. It's not.
Yeah.
They're wearing multiple of them to help with that weight again.
Yeah.
So.
Typically, I want to see, for me, again, for my money, I want to see a larger statement thing.
Yes.
Versus like 4 small pins.
So they'll get lost.
Yeah. If you have 3 or 4 pins that are all like the size of a nickel or a quarter, it gets a little too little, and you can't tell what it is. I should be able to kind of tell what it is from 5 feet away, and not have to get down and squint next to your crotch to see what's on your leg. It's a bad look. So yeah, it's
Mr. McGowan.
binoculars.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would want to have something that's a little more statementy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's you want it to be a personal thing, but big enough that people can see what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Ian, do you have any thoughts on weird things that people have used as kilt pins or?
Yeah, obviously there's good examples and bad examples of this, as anything. I did recently see a picture where there was a person who was clearly wearing a plaid brooch as a kilt pin.
Okay.
That struck me as a bit heavy and a bit much.
That's all. That's
a
pushing
lot
those
much.
chips forward.
Yeah, maybe they live in the Windy City. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with where these people were from. I didn't know them personally. I know we do have a good customer who pops in the store a couple times a week, and he's often finding unique things at antique shops and things like that he uses because he feels the need to have a different kilt pin for every kilt. In particular, he's been really on the hunt for something to wear with his American Dream kilt. He's been looking for some kind of Statue of Liberty or Liberty Bell or something of that nature. And he's been looking all over, and he hasn't found the right thing yet. So, but something like that is possible to find, but a lot of things can come across as a bit cheap. If you're like at a tourist shop in New York and looking for Statue of Liberty pins, they're especially if you're dressing it up very nicely with a nice tartan jacket and vest, as an example. Some of those cheap-looking enameled pins aren't really the right move.
Statue of Liberty googly eyes.
Depending on how you're wearing it, of course. If you're doing a casual kilt in that tartan, you've got patches on it and everything anyway, then sure.
Yeah.
But
George Washington with googly eyes.
There we go.
It is tough to find something that was not made to be a kilt pin that looks right. Not impossible, but it is tough.
Yeah, it's a slightly larger than regular pin size.
Yeah,
for sure, 100%. The Philadelphia Police and Fire actually have a custom kilt pin that they had done for their band of a sword kilt pin with the emblem on it being the Liberty Bell.
Oh.
That could be an interesting. Now that's a very, very Philadelphia thing, but it also represents the revolution. I could see it representing the American Dream, or the America in general.
Mm-hmm. Remember what we were talking about a little bit ago about creating new products?
No idea what you're talking about. No one steal that idea. I'd be stealing it from Philly Police and Fire, but yeah. They like me, so it's fine. All right. Was that you or Ian?
That was us, I believe.
Okay. Ian is scribbling something down furiously.
So let's go with. Do you have a good question, Matt? Because I'm struggling to come up with one that's good for the show.
We can go with Melissa's here. What is the worst kilted outfit you have ever seen?
I've seen some doozies.
See,
I've seen some things, man. Worst kilted outfit I've ever seen. There's a sliding scale. Which direction do you want to go with it? Do you want to go like costume, like Halloween store kilted outfit? Do you want to say like at a Celtic festival kilted outfit? Those can overlap.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah. What's your worst kilted outfit? Describe it for us. Bring us back to the moment.
I guess the kind of the problem that I'm stuck with this is, it may be the worst kilt outfit that I wouldn't wear it. I wouldn't be caught dead in, but the person wearing it was they were rocking it. You do you, boo. But like we've run into some things where we've seen some watermelon socks and some bright jackets.
Yeah.
But he was rocking it for all purposes.
Yeah, I've seen. See, this is where we get into trouble, in a couple ways. We will get accused of being too much the you do you. I think I want to add a little caveat here to the you do you, but please don't be you. I tried to make him spit on that one. There are times where it's like you do you, but please think again.
do it away from me.
Yeah, do it away from public. Do it in a forest. And I hope you get mauled by a bear. I remember going to Dublin Irish Festival and somebody having on like a kilt related like leprechaun type costume and being like, what in the hell are you doing? It's fun. Like, no, it's insulting. It's horrible. Stop. Like he's wearing like buckle brogue, like comically large buckle brogue, up shoes and leprechaun-y kind of socks and the fake tuxedo shirt and an Ireland's national Pakistani acrylic kilt that's neon green and a top hat. And it's like, no, dude, just stop. It's not cool. It's not funny. It's not part of the thing. You're being an ass.
You've crossed that line from being funny to
caricature.
Yeah.
To joke. You're not. Are you auditioning to be the Lucky Charms guy? If not, knock it off. There's a line to all this stuff in my mind. People draw their lines at different places, but there's a line. The Halloween costumes you see every year advertised of the sporin is really just a patch of fur that you with a leather flap on a leather bit and a fur bit. And like, oh, you get your authentic sporin. Like, no, just no. Stop. No. That's a hard freaking line that I have.
Yeah, I mean, it's the sliding scale of things. But yeah, I think you definitely, there's things that I wouldn't wear that other people, they're making more of a contemporary version of it, like a denim Prince Charlie jacket. Like, it's not my cup of tea. You're changing it to a more of a contemporary thing, but
I forgot that existed.
That's for the Canadian Kilts and Culture Gala.
yeah.
Yes. Oh, no, we saw it at Tartan Day.
Yeah.
It exists. It's a thing.
And it was two-tone.
Well, obviously.
Yeah, might as well.
Why would you not have a two-tone tweed or denim
Yeah.
Prince Charlie? Yeah. No, there's certain things that are just there's weird lines when people draw with fashion, trying to incorporate fashion with the thing. It can be a problem coming from a traditional angle, and then there's the caricature thing that you're playing with it to a degree it shouldn't be played with. It crosses the line from honoring heritage or incorporating heritage into your clothing to being disrespectful and being a caricature and being an ass. And again, that line is different for different people. And this is not to say that if you can't spend top dollar on your outfit, that you're somehow lesser than others. No, That is not what we're saying. It's being a sincere student of the culture, being one who's trying to express their heritage or honor their heritage in a respectful way versus, and doing it within a budget versus someone who's just, it's fun. Yeah, no. Ian, do you have any hard takes on this?
I grade this on a curve. Like if I see somebody who is wearing a utility tie-dye kilt and a Hawaiian shirt,
It's not trying to be traditional.
they're,
so
yeah,
I'm
they're doing
okay.
something
Yeah.
so different from what we are that it doesn't even. I don't like it. I want you to go be you in another state, but I like. It's fine. It doesn't really concern me. I do remember seeing somebody at a festival, and they had on a traditional style kilt, a decent enough kilt as far as that's concerned, and then just this threadbare red Prince Charlie that had like deadhead band patches all over it. I think even had like a stuffed animal stuffed in the pocket and like a big giant comical top hat. Not like an actual top people wear, but like the goofy ones that like were popular in the 90s. That were
I don't know
like, more
about
funny.
popular.
Well, but they were worn
That existed.
they were worn for comical effect. You know,
Yeah.
it's exaggerated, and it's just. And he was at a Celtic festival, wearing a traditional styled kilt, and it was just. It's like, you know, I've got a lot of room for people expressing themselves in ways I wouldn't. But this feels wrong.
Yeah,
It's on
it's
the wrong side of the line.
yes, and I just my brain just clicked over into another gear. It's because it's not look at me and my heritage. It's look at me and look at me. I think there's a line that you cross to, and trying to be the center of attention versus expressing a thing for the nature of the thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now like those type of people with the leprechaun socks and the like, I'm gonna be out there and outlandish and funny and da da da. That's what that grates on my nerves. That's what gets under my
Yeah.
skin is the I want to be the center of attention for this thing. Yeah. And doing it in a disrespectful way. It's
Yeah.
different than like wearing a tartan jacket and vest with a tartan kilt and being over the top and being the peacock amongst the peacocks to like a St. Andrew's dinner or something where there's a ton of kilts and you're going to stand out by wearing like a full tartan outfit. Some people may think that's too much. Other people may think like, oh no, that's really, really cool. That's different
Yeah.
because you're look at me in how cool this looks within it. It's not a joke. It's when it becomes a joke that you're disrespecting it.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going to draw a line. Okay. Mr. Mack. Oh. Before we get to the last question,
Is that time?
I think we've made the people wait long enough.
Oh, okay.
All right. So, I would like to introduce to you, with a lower third graphic, the Nordic Heritage Tartan. So, Eric and I have been thinking about this and doing something like this for a long time. They're the Nordic influence in Scotland, the Nordic influence in America and around the world is huge. The number of our customers who've been asking for a tartan to be able to celebrate their ancestry and more of their ancestry has been a huge, I won't say outcry, but a lot of people have asked us about it. So Eric and I sat down with the staff. We sat down with, people of Nordic heritage, people who, who practice that as religion, people who have, it's varied backgrounds, and kind of came up with thoughts and concepts and colors that we wanted to incorporate into the design. So if you would bring up the other graphic of the actual tartan itself. So the colors that we included were that represent the Nordic Council nations and the territories like Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Norway, Sweden, the Faroe Islands, Greenland, and Åland. They also represent the essential aspects of Nordic culture and the dramatic climate of the North. The blue was used for the oceans and the seas, the northern sky, the woad-dyed wool, and the Norse god Odin. The red is meant for fire and passion in the warrior tradition of the Norse, as well as the god Thor. The gold represents the golden treasures and the jewelry and that are found, and the amber, known as the known to the Norse as Freya's tears. The white we chose to represent ice and the snow and the caps of the waves, knowing that they are a seafaring people, and the compass sunstones that the Vikings used. The black and the gray were meant to pull in the winter nights, the fjords in Norway, and the rocky shores of Iceland and Greenland. The last thing that we wanted to do was actually the gray is going to be a marled yarn. One of the facts that I found most interesting was that Nordic farmers and Icelanders couldn't always acquire dyes for their yarns. So one of the ways that they got creative was they actually twisted different colors of sheep. So where they had black, where they had a white sheep, or like different kind of colors, they twisted them together. So black and white, they twisted together to make a gray for their yarns. So we wanted to pull on that bit of that little factoid, that little nugget, and incorporate that in the design, just kind of with the marled yarns as a nod to that. So there it is. We hope you guys dig our Nordic Heritage tartan. If you are interested, it is actually available on our website right now. We put it live just before the show. So if you go to the website, right on the homepage, there's actually a banner for the Nordic Heritage tartan. We are taking pre-orders for it right now. It is one that's going to be, hopefully, I'm overshooting a little bit, but I'm saying, late August is when everything would be finally delivered in the actual cloth. But we already have the CADs done from the mill. So it's something that we are very, very excited to bring you guys. Hopefully you're as excited as we are about it. The overall feeling of it, we wanted to go with a cooler looking tartan, cool temperature wise for, the climate. So it's something that there's a lot of symbolism in there. There's even more, but we're trying not to gild the lily too much, but we were really, really inspired when Eric and I sat down and, kind of really dug deep into what we wanted out of this kind of tartan. And spoiler alert, I believe it should be maybe ready next Friday. We're going to premiere a video. We actually recorded Eric and I actually designing the tartan and kind of going through the process of thinking about different things and coming up with the color scheme and the process of actually designing the tartan. So we're going to come out with that video probably end of next week. So be on the lookout for that.
No, I think this is something that Eric's been very excited about for a long time, and it's kind of been the joke around the office, like, oh, when's this coming out? When's this coming? Kind of like
the Celtic Nations.
Yeah, exactly where I was going.
So, Mac, what do you want to try to wear Rocky down on now?
I still have one or two that I can throw out there, but I'll let this one simmer for a little while.
Okay. Let's not get people excited about the next thing before we're taking orders on this thing.
Let's let this one percolate a little bit.
Fair enough.
But I know, Eric's been really excited about this one, and Susie and Blue over in production are also were really hyping this one up. So,
I know why Blue likes it.
Well,
of course,
because it got blue. But yeah, so it's everyone's really excited to see what it comes out looking like in the cloth.
It's at the risk of sounding like I'm patting myself on the back, which I'm really not. I'm not trying to. It's one of those where I got done the design. Eric and I got done the design the first day, and I kind of sat on it and said, okay, I'm gonna sit with it for a couple days, and came back a few days later and I got like all excited, and I did too much work without the cameras rolling because I got too excited, and added a few more things, and and then once I got to the design that you're seeing on the screen right now, I kind of stopped and like, yes, that's it. Made myself wait a couple days, came back and said, okay, maybe I'm going to do this, maybe I'm going to do that. And I came up with a few other tweaks to it or different color variations and played with it in different ways. And I just kept it coming back to, nope. That was the right design. I still always came back to this design. No matter how many different variations, different color palettes I came up with, I came back to that design. So when it gives you the goosebumps and you're like, yep, that's it. That's the one. I got that feeling off of this. So I'm really excited to see what people think of this one. So awesome. All right. Next, we'll do one more question, and then we'll do the question of the day. So who did the last one? Was that you?
So let's go with a question from James Allen Fulker. Here's my question. I'm looking for a tartan for my great kilt. My specifications are that it is good camo for 4 seasons, literally a hunting tartan. To quote Eric Munnerson, be able to hide in the heather. Suggestions?
One kilt for all seasons. To match outdoorsy stuff.
Similar but very different than the question we covered earlier.
Yeah. So the problem with trying to pick one tartan that will camouflage you, so to speak, for all seasons is that the fauna change, the leaves change, the landscape changes throughout the year, unless you're in a climate where the leaves don't fall. Mac, why don't you start? What one thing would you do for all seasons?
What, one tartan?
One tartan
So
for a great kilt.
my reaction to this was Buchanan hunting.
Okay. So browns,
Browns
a little
and
bit of
greens,
greens, little bit of blue in there.
a little bit of yellow.
Yeah, white stripe and a red stripe. Okay. Or no, what's in
It's
white stripe and a yellow stripe?
yellow.
Forget.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So that's kind of where I went with it.
Okay. So Buchanan hunting, that wouldn't be a bad one. I was gonna go. I went 2 directions, or I'm going 2 directions. One, possibly just weathered tartans in general,
Yeah.
because no matter what, you're always gonna have mud and rocks and things like that. So depending on where you're hunting, mud and ground cover could be a good thing. And Ian, we'll bring you in next as well because you're an outdoorsy type. So I'd say, generally speaking, a weathered color palette. Maybe not Buchanan weathered, something with like red, so much red and yellow in it. I wouldn't do a red-based weathered. I'd probably do like a regular, a regular modern kind of tartan, or a regular tartan weathered, Robertson or something like that, or Mackay. Maybe not something with a white, but Mackay or Black
Kilts and
Watch.
culture.
No, Kilts and culture-ish, because it has the white, so it's
White
tough
and
to
yellow and
camouflage.
red. Yeah.
Well, it's the snow.
Yeah. Black Watch weather would be okay. If there's snow, you're screwed.
Yeah, you're done.
Ian, I have one more thought, but I'm going to save it. Ian,
Okay.
What would you do?
I generally agree with you on the weathered tartan because you're going to find those elements, even if they aren't overwhelming. You might stand out against too much green, but
yeah.
I think it's a difficult question because we covered all the seasons separately earlier. I don't think, unless you live in a place where all 4 seasons look the same, I don't think you really can truly fully camo in a truly 4 seasons kind of an area. I think the weathered is the best answer I would be able to come up with, especially one that doesn't have like Kilts and Culture yellows and reds in it, but like a Black Watch weathered or something pretty close to that. Even original recipe sterling would be pretty good because you're gonna find gray. If you're in outdoorsy, you're gonna find
Yeah.
rocks and things.
Yeah, okay.
I wouldn't go sterling pink so much, or even sterling
No.
yellow, but
I think you need some color. So I don't know about the sterling gray, but I get what I'm picking up what you're putting down. Here's my other random thought.
Okay.
Tweed.
yeah, yes,
Maybe like a state tweed with a lot more, a bunch of stripes to it. The traditional tweed pattern, or a Prince Charles kind of, or is Prince Charles tweed? Yeah, it has like the like it looks scratchy and earthy kind of thing. So like a brownish greenish flavor of tweed. I could see something like that working extremely well for a camouflage type situation.
Now, hunters have to wear that blaze orange though. So
but he wanted
Okay.
camo.
now
Okay.
I know, but
Sterling orange.
I was gonna go blaze orange kilt, and then everything else is camo.
Okay. That may be awkward.
It may be, but
Blaze orange kilt. Wear it to a Flyers game.
yeah, there you go.
Yep. Go
Direct traffic.
Exactly. Just stand as a cone. That's fine.
It's got that shape.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Very good. All right, boys and girls. Question of the day. What do you think of the Nordic Heritage tartan? Give me your feedback. Did we knock it out of the park, or nope, don't like it? What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? What would you like to see different if we were to do it all again, which we're not going to, but here's the actual question. Rate it on a scale of 1 to 10 for the symbolism that we've included in it and for the design itself. Rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. What do you think of the Nordic Heritage Tartan? Thank you, boys and girls, for tuning in. Until next time, Thanjava.